Greetings, listeners and STEK installers around the world. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 2 of Off the Roll, podcast by STEK USA. This week, we have Robert Golis and Benjamin Nussbaum with me. If you guys listened last week, you have already met Benjamin, but for those that are unfamiliar, Benjamin is the Vice President of STEK and a master installer coming into the industry with decades of experience and helping our team in extremely technical and high level. And then Robert has been our lead and only factory STEK trainer for our Intro to Paint Protection Film training class. The goal of today's podcast is to introduce you to both these fantastic gentlemen and share a little bit more about what our training class includes for those that might be interested or maybe considering getting into the paint protection film industry themselves. So without further ado, Benjamin, do you want to give a little more background about your expertise and how you come in to support our training at STEK?
Sure. So in 2006, we had a detail shop started, Metropolitan Detail, and we had people asking, specifically dealerships, about having protection film put on cars, and we didn't know anything about it. So we started to learn about how to put it on, went to some training, and when we got back from training, we still had to have someone detail and someone do the paint protection film. So I kind of fell into the role of doing paint protection film, and John fell into continuing to detail. And as experience grew, I remember the first install probably took 13 hours to do a partial mask and replaced it a few times, right? You kind of recognize that, right?
Okay.
And then as you grow and your shops grow, you start training your other installers to help you. And as our company grew, we had the opportunity to train quite a few people. And in doing that, was able to form our company, STEK USA. And after a few years of selling film, we had to get some training going on. And we interviewed several people. Wasn't an easy position to fill, because if you're going to be a trainer, you have to be a trainer. You can't really train someone to be a trainer. You can train someone to put film on, but you cannot train someone to be a trainer. They have to have a natural way of expressing and teaching. You have to be able to show someone something more than one way. If you cannot teach someone how to do something more than one way, you can't really be a teacher, because not everyone learns the same way. So we have someone that can do that, Robert Golis.
Absolutely. And I think that's an excellent segue to give Robert a chance to introduce himself, but he's coming to the table with quite the reputation already. So give us a little background. Where did you come from, and how long have you been with STEK?
Yeah, so my name is Robert Golis. I've been with STEK for about 3 years now. I came from Savannah, Georgia, where I was, working at a retail shop doing installs. Had about 3.5 years experience there.
Cool. And what even got you to consider transitioning from a retail installer to become a corporate factory trainer?
I just felt like I needed to grow more. So luckily one night I found this job on Indeed, and I saw that I met all the criteria, and I just kind of went for it.
Awesome. And before coming to STEK, did you have any experience training directly with paint protection film?
None at all.
Excellent. Well, I think that goes to speak towards Robert's character and his ability to pick this up and do so naturally. But Robert has had the chance to train hundreds and hundreds of people under the STEK roof now, and many of those students he still keeps in contact with, and we constantly are getting positive praise and recognition for Robert's support. So we want to talk a little bit more about that training class. When you came to STEK, we needed a paint protection film course. Did we have much structure or outline, or were you able to kind of take your own authority? And how did you go about, fitting that curriculum into STEK?
When I was interviewing, I was talking with Benjamin and John, and, I kind of told them I want to create a class that I wish I would have been trained that way. I wanted a very hands-on class, small class size. That way, I have a set curriculum, but I can also tailor it towards the individual. If someone comes in with a little bit more experience, obviously I run through the curriculum, but I can sit down, see what they want to focus on, and, help them develop those skills.
That's that trainer within a person.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I know that both you gentlemen work together to build that curriculum as well. How long did that process take? What did that look like from, moving to Georgia to Seattle and actually offering our first class? What was that experience kind of like?
The move from Georgia, it was great because it was at the beginning of COVID, so there was no one on the roads. So it was a pretty easy drive. I also got to stop off in Houston, hang out with my parents for a little bit.
We postponed your travels almost, a month or two?
Yep, yeah. About a month due to COVID. But then, finally made it up here. And, when I started developing the curriculum, I would sit down and record an install and talk to myself. And then I would go back and watch it and, for better lack of words, try and dumb it down as much as I could. There were certain things that were second nature to me that, it would be hard to explain to people. So I had to really focus on that. And Benjamin, he did great with helping me get the verbiage correct and, just really structure the class.
I loved when Robert would come in the next day and he's like, I'm driving home from work and I'm thinking about how to do this and portray to someone that has no idea how to do something, how to put a full hood on, where to start, picturing everything of the install. And then we'd go through, the way that his words were coming out. And it was just really awesome to see. Robert's a natural.
Yeah. Working with him to shape his best professional trainer self.
Exactly.
It's pretty exciting. We're proud of you. We're proud of you, Robert.
I'm very proud of Robert.
Yeah, it's come a long ways. So that being said, where did classes start then? Were you, did you jump into the deep end and have paid trainees coming in already, or do we give you a chance to kind of test some things out?
Yeah, we did 2 mock classes where I'd come in. That way I could just kind of get the timing down right and help, really with the structure of the class and break down what we're going to focus on each day.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And so, training itself, I think each manufacturer has good courses to offer, but we all have a little bit different curriculum, a little bit different structure. What would you, someone that's interested in our class, how would you describe what to expect coming in as far as that week? How would they be best set up for success?
Yeah, so my class is a very hands-on class. I feel like with PPF, the best way to learn it is get your hands, wet and mess up, because you can learn from your mistakes. You'll learn the properties of the film, how much you can stretch it, how much you can't. I do classroom time, but I try to spread it out over the 3 days. That way you're not sitting down for half a day or a full day. And honestly, a lot of that kind of classroom time stuff, you can learn on yourself. I find the value in training is actually doing the installs, getting your solutions right, seeing what works for you.
Something in the beginning that I was really trying to ingrain into Robert's head was use our film, right? When you go to a training class, as a trainee, you're given pieces of film to put on and whatnot. But what is great is when you're in a course and you have a plethora of film and you can just grab it and do installs, because when you get back to your shop, every practice costs you money. So when you're here, it's really important for me that Robert is just feeding film to all of the trainees. Everyone just gets to use film, and we get to practice with fashion films, clear films, matte films, whatever that student wants to work with is available. And as a trainer, for Robert to have the access to the film allows him to cater it to each individual person. Some may need more film than others, right?
Oh yeah, we use a lot of film in class. You definitely get your money's worth.
Yeah, that fact that they're here and 15 or 20 minutes, maybe 30, depending on what's going on in the morning, they're already wet hands, and that's so important.
Yep. My students, you will be installing film within the first hour of class.
Yeah, awesome. And I think that provides a lot of value. Again, given your guys' experience, that the classroom stuff, that can be figured out or learned later on, but it's hard to replace that space, that safe space to make mistakes and to eat film and just try that, pull it off, do it again, and get comfortable with a whole new process. This is not going to be something that you nail after the 3-day class. You're going to have to go back and keep practicing. Oh, yeah. So get as much of that as you can while you're here with us, and that will just set you up for when you get back to your shop.
Exactly.
100%. Yeah, this intro class, it's so that you can kind of get the technical terms, get the basic understanding of PPF. That way, when you're home, and if you need to give me a call and need some help, we'll be able to communicate effectively. You won't be like, oh, what's that little foldy thing? It's a finger.
Yeah.
And it just makes helping people so much easier.
Yeah, but the foldy things, those happen.
Sure.
Yeah.
A lot of things happen. And so what would maybe be, from both of you gentlemen, a realistic timeline? Someone just completed the class. How long until they're going to be introducing retail installations? What are those kind of variables that might change how long that takes?
It's really dependent on the student and how much they want it. I have students, after the 3-day course, they go home and practice, and, within 6 months, they're a good installer.
That's debatable.
Yeah.
They're able to sell jobs.
True, yeah. Everybody learns at a different pace, but the main thing is after this class, keep doing installs. If you don't use it, you're going to lose it.
Yeah. And so curious your thoughts, Benjamin, someone that is coming into the class, and I've seen this, just to be honest, we already have a retail job lined up. When I get home, I'm doing a Ferrari 48, and you're like, holy crap, pump the brakes a little
slow
bit.
down. So a lot of these trainees, there's no doubt that when you're done with the class, you can go home and sell jobs. But you leave the class, and you should be able to understand which cars are going to be more technical. You've been able to pull now on enough film with the fenders and the bumpers and the training car that we have here that you can look at a car and be like, okay, this one's going to be a little bit more simple. I'll go ahead and schedule that. And that's what I urge everyone to do, is get as much work as they can. And if it's a difficult car, maybe don't charge for it. Maybe you get a friend's car, right? But what you want to do is get that installs under your belt. So how long does it take to become a good installer? Like Robert said, it depends how much you go practice. But when you leave class, Robert has given everyone the tools to install film. Whether you charge for the quality of work you're doing right out of class is up to you as an installer. But I think that you need about 20 to 25 full front ends, or cars if you're doing partial. We can say 20 to 25 jobs under your belt before you're not going to have issues, before you're not going to have comebacks, because experience can't be replaced. So if you start forcing down sharp fingers and it stays down, that's great, but it's going to lift. And that experience you get when it comes back, the customer, right? So how long does it take to be a good installer is up to the quality you're going. But to be an efficient installer doesn't take more than probably 20 cars.
Yeah, very cool. And I think that segues really well to our next question, which is, does the learning ever stop when it comes to film installations?
It shouldn't.
That's maybe the best answer we've gotten yet.
It shouldn't. It doesn't stop with doctors. It doesn't stop with lawyers. Everyone has to do continuing education, learn new laws, learn new everything. This industry is changing. What is changing in this industry is there is a lot of nonsense. You don't need very much stuff to install paint protection film. You need a slip solution, you need a tack solution of your choice, you need a couple of tools, and a knife. A plotter is very helpful for the new person. But there is a lot of things in the industry that's making installations much more complicated than they need to be right now. So that's something that Robert's training. Simple installations.
Yeah. And I always find in multiple aspects of life, simple is successful. And I think that's really the target of our training class, is not to overwhelm you with all the different options you have and all the different techniques that are out there in the world for PPF. This is our best suggestion. We've tried these things and we know that they work.
It brings up a point of what you learn in class is a guideline. What you take home may be completely different. So I've had 3 different paint protection installation shops, different locations, and each location, the water was different. No joke, the water was different. And you have to change the amount of soap you use if your water has less particulate in it. If there's less minerals, it's more sticky, so you're going to need more soap. So when you're in Robert's class and he's teaching someone to use 7 mils or 4 mils of soap, that's totally a baseline, right? If someone is using warm water and they're like, oh, it needs to be 130 degrees, man, that is nonsense. It's just what works for you in your area, in your climate. There is no set temperature that you shouldn't go below and above. There's something that works for you. If you have extremely hot water and you pull film and you've discolored the film, it's most likely not the water's fault. It's the fact that the water was so warm that the film became so soft that you over-pulled it, okay? So someone might like really hot water and they know just to move real slow. So in these courses, it's a baseline. This is a way for you to develop what you need to become a proficient installer. And that's what Robert does a really good job of, is he gives all of the basic tools to everybody that comes through the shop and explains it more than one way, which is extremely important, and explains that it isn't set. You don't have to use just this. You got guys measuring soap with syringes, that's wonderful. But if you have 7.4 mils instead of 7, it's still gonna be okay. So it doesn't have to be as difficult as a lot of people are making it, but keeping a system and keeping a baseline is important.
Yeah. I think with that knowledge, you're able to problem solve independently. And that's where it helps you gain a lot of advantage over time.
And on that point, I think with PPF, there's a certain artistry involved in it. Like you're going to develop your install style.
No doubt.
Yeah, and your skill set. So, and everybody's different. Everybody is, going to do different jobs. So, yeah, with the class, it's designed to give you that baseline, and that way you can work off of that how you want to. And then, I'm also there to support you through, developing your skill set. Whether you call me or I have a training group on Facebook with a lot of different videos on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, Robert, I know that your day-to-day has changed a little bit, and I believe you're keeping track of how many students you've helped as well. And so I believe not only just when you're with students physically in our warehouse facility, you're always talking to students. You're texting, Facebooking, calling. How has that kind of balanced transition been coming from a retail side where you probably didn't have to deal with many customers to now a lot of customer service?
Oh, yeah, definitely. When I was doing retail installs, I was doing my own thing. Now here at STEK, I've trained 437 students. So I'm quite busy. And, it's great. I've made a lot of friends, in the training and stuff. A lot of students that I keep up with and, text me from the day to day. So.
Awesome. And after training 437 students, what is maybe a piece of advice that you have now that you didn't have during that first or second mock class?
A piece of advice to give to students, patience. Like, you'll get it as long as you're doing installs. That skill set will develop. You just need to keep doing it.
Yeah, cool. Patience and repetitiveness. How about you?
You'll have to repeat the question, but I wanted to comment on Robert. So there's a lot that makes a good staff member, a lot. But something that sets Robert out to me, aside from everybody, is, I'm not just saying it at here, I'm saying in general, is Robert's job was to be a trainer. But Robert took it one step further and became a supporter, okay? So he started a page on his own to support students that come through the class, and he continues to text and communicate with people outside of work. He was not hired to be a supporter. Robert took that in on his own, which made him a stronger trainer because everybody that comes in still has support. And that to me is amazing. Like, very proud of what Robert has built.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just seeing the way that our students interact with you when we're going out to SEMA, whether it's the weekly dinners we take them on, you can just tell that these individuals have a lot of respect for you and that you've earned that respect by supporting them when they needed it.
Earned it big time.
Yeah. Absolutely. The question was there any single piece of advice after training as many people as you have, having the decades of experience that you do, that you didn't know early on that you think is kind of a gem now that you have that experience?
I think that if you pay attention to what you are doing. I say this in my videos that we're archiving. Just look at what you're doing. If you take a second to use the reflection and not rush and look at what you're doing, your installs will be so much cleaner. And I don't mean dirt, I mean everything. The cuts, the clarity, the tightness of the film. If you lay film down and it's super tight when it's wet, when it dries, it just becomes tight and clean. And when it's loose and there's water here and there, they just don't dry out the same. Pay attention to what you're doing is leading into Robert's patients, and your installs will be super clean.
Excellent. I like it. Well, last couple questions for you, gentlemen. What has been the most challenging and the most rewarding part about being the STEK trainer?
I would definitely say the most challenging part was creating the curriculum. Again, as I kind of hinted on before, there were certain things that were just second nature to me. And I had to go in and not only relearn those, but learn how to explain them on a very basic level, and also several different ways on the basic level. The most rewarding thing is, definitely meeting all kinds of great people all over the place. And, I've made a lot of great friends.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know when we've talked previously too, you've mentioned that it feels good to see your students be successful. And I think you had a chance to see a lot of that because, one, you're a good trainer, but two, we have a lot of excellent people that are coming in and decided to train with us.
100%. It's makes me so happy when I see these guys, they're running a detail shop, doing all right, and then they take on PPF, and it can change their lives. And that's really special.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, cool, gentlemen. Let's wrap it up here. What does training do for our industry as a whole? Is there a large benefit to training? Do you see that continuing to evolve with more options and opportunities? What would be your stance on that?
I think training is great for the industry. I think it's going to help evolve the industry and almost set a baseline standard for installs.
Yeah, absolutely. And branching off of that, how important do you think setting a standard is in the industry?
I think setting a standard in the industry is going to be extremely difficult. I think that I don't know if you can set a standard because everyone's always trying to do something a little bit different to stand out. I think that instead of setting a standard for the industry, you set a standard for your own shop, and others generally tend to follow in your area because the industry standard, we mentioned this in another podcast, in Northern California can be completely different than Southern California. So the industry standard is localized. It depends on where you are. So I always just say this, mind your own business, and everyone else will be interested in your business.
Yeah. I like that. And I think with STEK as a manufacturer, but also from our training class, I think we strive to be the ideal, right? The best we can be, the best knowledge that we can share. But to our earlier point, that doesn't mean that's the only way to do it.
That's definitely not the only way.
Keep an open mind.
It's our way.
Yeah, which of course we're a little biased towards. But nevertheless, if someone's on the fence about training, yes or no, maybe I want to get in this industry, is there anything you would say to that person?
They can always reach out to me, whether it's Facebook or my number, and I can talk to them, kind of run them through the course, through the curriculum, tell them what I'm about. And, again, with the curriculum, I have a set curriculum, but I can also tailor it towards the individual. That's why I really like that small class size.
Yeah. Definitely. We, for those that are listening curious, we do limit our class just to 5 people so that Robert gets enough of that one-on-one time with each student. And the feedback that we continue to get from that reinforces that we'll keep it nice and small.
I'll touch on the cost, the education. There's a lot of people that get paid to be professionals, right? And all of them went to school. So you can look at a training course as education, and our cost of education for the return value is extremely low, right? What is a course cost right now?
It's $17.95, I believe.
So for less than $1,800, you can literally have an educational course that, as Robert says, can change your life. I don't speak for anybody else's course, but the course that Robert and I have built here is going to give you an education in what you need to make money.
Love it. Well, everyone, thank you so much for watching. That wraps up episode 2 of Off the Roll podcast. If you're interested in finding out more about our training, check out our website, just stek-usa.com, or shoot us an email at info@stek-usa.com. We'll be happy to share some more. But as always, we'll catch you on the next one. Take care.
Thank you.